Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. There were so many Daleks in the new Series 8 trailer, I wanted to do a video for my top 10. There have been about 13 people to do Dalek voices over the last 50 years. That number goes up to 14 if you count Dalek Oswin. In modern Doctor Who, Nicholas Briggs is usually credited with doing all the Dalek voices, even variations on the normal Daleks like the Prime Minister we saw on the Series 7 opener. Hello to any new people. If you're finding me for the first time, I do Doctor Who videos every week. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. I've got a bunch of extra links in the description, and I'm planning a whole bunch of stuff whenever the episodes get here, August 23rd. So before I do my list, here's a quick history lesson on all the Dalek voice actors. Most people just know about Nicholas Briggs, but there are a ton more. So the high-pitched Dalek voice was actually first created by Peter Hawkins and David Graham for the original series. That was in Season 1, Episode 2. It was just called The Daleks. The voice that they came up with was modified by Brian Hodgson to give it that mechanical sound. You can actually watch a retelling of them doing this during Mark Gatiss' Adventure in Space and Time, the docudrama about the creation of Doctor Who. If you haven't seen it, it is totally amazing. David Bradley plays William Hartnell. After that initial period, there were 7 different people who did Dalek voices for brief periods before Nicholas Briggs took over in 2005. There have been 5 different people to do Davros voices. He's not technically a Dalek, but I usually include the character whenever I talk about Daleks. Like father, like son. So here are my top 10 favorite Daleks. This isn't like a power ranking or anything, it's just my list of top 10 favorites. Starting with number 10, Dalek Oswin. This was a really fun twist on a Dalek, and I have to give it to Stephen Moffat for trying to tell a Dalek story in a whole new way, despite Russell T Davies already having mined a lot of the humans as Daleks story material. It's still a little bit of a question mark for the series, and I'm hoping it gets some callbacks in Series 8. Supposedly, Dalek Oswin was destroyed when the Dalek Parliament destroyed the planet, but it seems like whenever time travel is possible and there are cracks in the universe, you never really die. So there are actually a couple really interesting things about this Dalek and this version of Clara. Supposedly, she was one of the fractured reality Claras that were created whenever Clara Oswald jumped into the Doctor's time stream in the Series 7 finale. All the versions of Clara seem to retain all the memories of the first version of Clara, so if that were true, why did Dalek Oswin not know the Doctor in Asylum of the Daleks in that episode? She just seemed like she was meeting him for the first time, like she didn't have any memory of him. The only explanation based on what we know right now is that Oswin Oswald, when she was still on the Alaska as a human, knew what was going to happen, and then as a result of being converted to a Dalek, lost those memories. On to number 9, Davros, as played by Michael Wisher in Genesis of the Daleks. It's fun to watch any version of the classic Davros scenes since the style of the writing was just so different from what you see today. Because they didn't have special effects or huge sets, all the action was in their crazy monologues. It's much more of Davros as mad scientist, like Frankenstein meets Doctor Who. You spend a lot more time relying on your imagination to conjure the things that he's talking about. There was a bit of a callback in Journey's End where the idea given to him by the 4th Doctor almost comes to fruition, with the destruction of all life. Nowadays on the show, as evidenced during Russell T Davies' run, you can just show awesome things, but sometimes it's better when Davros just talks about tiny microscopic organisms reigning supreme, and your own brain hallucinates something epic that they could never do on a TV budget. That's just a common story of almost any TV show. You're almost always able to hallucinate things that are crazier than what they're able to do on screen. But number 8, Metaltron from Series 1. This was the first new Dalek to be seen since the 2005 reboot, and the beginning of Russell T Davies' love for humanizing the Daleks. Metaltron was also the first survivor of the Time War that the Doctor found, even though there ended up being way more than that the 10th Doctor met. I think this was one of the first times that we learned, at least in the new series, that Daleks could regenerate themselves with other people's DNA. I also loved all the callbacks to the consequences of absorbing human DNA. Like the Daleks just started breaking down mentally because they couldn't handle all the feels and the human emotions. But number 7, the Dalek Prime Minister, as seen in Series 7. I always love seeing their mutant forms. Every time I see one, I always think of Dalek Khan. The cool thing about the Prime Minister in this episode is that he was begging the Doctor for help. It was another new twist on the Daleks, like the Dalek Parliament itself. Every time we see them again, you can just feel the pressure behind the scenes to do something that hasn't been done before. I know the Doctor has been forced to work alongside the Daleks in the past, but I don't remember a time when they ever flat out begged him. Most of the time, they're just trying to kill him. And the really big twist ended up being that he got erased from their memory banks, even though that all ended up getting reversed by the Christmas special. But number 6, the new White Supreme Dalek. This was Stephen Moffat's new take on the Daleks, the new Dalek paradigm. I should really include all of them in this one. Outwardly, they were really most notable for their reskin colors. They all had several different functions that they never really went into on the show. So the Daleks that created the new paradigm were actually explained as survivors of the Medusa Cascade incident. I think that they mostly followed up with these Daleks during the video game City of the Daleks, which kind of explains why they didn't talk too much about them on the show after this. But number 5, the Emperor Dalek during Parting of Ways. This was the God Emperor of the Daleks, which actually kind of makes me think of God Emperor of Dune, the Frank Herbert story. It's always cool to see variations on the Dalek casings. In this episode, he even had a little throne on it. They also did some really nice callbacks to the consequences of Daleks having human DNA, human emotions. The Emperor got so crazy when Rose suggested the Daleks were part human because of all the DNA they had harvested. He ended up creating an army of about 500,000 Daleks that Rose was really only able to destroy whenever she became the Bad Wolf entity. To be fair, it was a finale, so obviously they had to up the stakes. The Emperor was so much fun, mostly because of the hubris. I mean, if a being really were perfect and like a god, wouldn't it not care about anything anyone else was doing or whether or not people acknowledged it as a god? That's like the test. If somebody tells you that they're a god, they're probably not. A real god wouldn't care if you thought it was a god. But number 5, human hybrid Dalek Sec. I thought of him as a bit of a twist on the Davros character, trying to fundamentally alter the Dalek race and make them all more human in a literal sense. I loved how hopeful this character was and so positive, and he espoused this new theory to the rest of the cult of Skaro, and they all just looked at each other and said, nope, not doing it. It's a classic science fiction narrative that anyone with new ideas immediately gets vaporized. But number 3, Davros from Stolen Earth and Journey's End. This version of Davros was rescued from the Time War by Dalek Khan. Previously, Davros's mind had been sublimated by a Dalek consciousness, so he was the Emperor of the Daleks for a time, but there was a Dalek mind operating his body, and Davros' own consciousness was just riding passenger. So whenever we see him for the first time in Stolen Earth, he's just retaken control of his mind and is working with the Daleks inside the Medusa Cascade, although technically he's their prisoner. So anytime you use Davros in a story, you have to up the stakes to like really crazy levels. So obviously this Medusa Cascade plot was all about destroying all realities so that only the Daleks were left. I love how he ended up cursing the Doctor as the greater evil in the end. Like, yes, I tried to destroy several universes, but you, Doctor, you are the real villain. So they used part of his speech in the last Series 8 trailer, not the one that just posted, but the one before that. So it's hard to say how the series is going to deal with him going forward. The last time we saw him, he was on the Crucible in the middle of a fiery explosion. But number 2, the Dalek Genesis arc. This was not technically a Dalek, but a device like a TARDIS that existed across dimensions and time and space, housing a massive army of Daleks. Bigger on the inside. The whole conceit of this is that the Daleks themselves needed to touch the arc to open it, but they couldn't do that, even though they do have like little tentacles. I really thought of the arc as more of like a red herring. It was like a bomb that would explode Daleks all over the world. Which is kind of funny because the Master ended up using the TARDIS in a similar way to bring the Toclafane to Earth. Both those things actually just remind me of the Face of Bone Captain Jack. Like, it's this really ominous statement about the future of humanity. Like, we're all destined for something really, really horrible. But my number 1 Dalek? Dalek Khan from the Cult of Skaro. My favorite Dalek Khan appearance was in Stolen Earth and Journey's End, the two-parter, after he'd gone completely nutters. Khan is probably the most interesting Dalek to me because at that point he had become a twist on the Bad Wolf character, minus the superpowers. It's like he gained ultimate knowledge, but paid the ultimate price. So here's actually a timeline of events, because we've seen him several times throughout the series. First we see him in Doomsday with the rest of the Cult of Skaro trying to open the Genesis arc. They failed, escape to New York in the 1930s, then create the human hybrid Dalek Sect, but it goes sideways, and Khan time shifts out. He travels back to the first year of the Time War, being the first person to break the time lock, saves Davros from the jaws of the Nightmare Child, and brings him to the Medusa Cascade. In the process of that rescue mission, he sees all of time and space and goes completely mad. I always thought it was kind of funny that the Supreme Dalek inside the Medusa Cascade called him an abomination. But now it's your turn. Let me know in the comments, who was your favorite Dalek and what are you hoping to see in Series 8? Like, what new twists on the way they tell Dalek stories? So my next bonus video will probably post next weekend. It depends on what they post. Typically they alternate casting news with new trailers, and they just posted a new trailer. If you haven't seen it yet, you can click here. I did a full breakdown on my channel. There are so many Daleks and a Dalek battle cruiser. And you can click here to see the top 10 UK people I'd like to see become companions at some point. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tonight. High fives.